Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're doing something a little different. We're going to run a kind of national health check on India. We'll be looking at three really distinct, but you'll see deeply connected challenges. Think of it like this: a chronic ailment, an acute threat, and a pretty controversial treatment. All right, let's get right into it.
Our checkup starts with a single, pretty stark number. According to the latest Global Hunger Index, out of 123 countries, India ranks 102nd. Right off the bat, that's a number that makes you stop and ask some serious questions about the nation's overall well-being.
And it's not just about the rank itself. The Global Hunger Index, or GHI, doesn't just rank countries, it classifies them. And India's score lands it squarely in the serious category. So this tells us we're not just looking at a small problem. No, this is a major national symptom that really needs a closer look.
But serious is a heavy word. So what's actually going on behind that number? What does it all mean? Let's dive into the first part of our diagnosis.
So, we're starting with hunger because, let's face it, it's such a foundational issue. The health of a nation's people has a direct impact on its economy, its security, and of course, its future. To really get a handle on this, we need to understand what this index is even measuring.
So the GHI isn't just one metric they pull out of a hat. It's a really comprehensive tool, and it's published every year by two major international aid organizations. Its whole purpose is to track hunger around the world by looking at four key indicators. So that final GHI score, it's actually made up of four different things. First, you've got undernourishment. That's basically asking if the general population is getting enough calories. Then it zooms in on children under 5 with child stunting. That's low height for their age, a sign of long-term malnutrition. Then there's child wasting, low weight for their height, a sign of acute malnutrition. And finally, child mortality, which is the percentage of kids who sadly don't make it to their 5th birthday.
And it's so important to understand that hunger isn't just a humanitarian crisis, it's a national development crisis. I mean, it's directly linked to almost half of all deaths in children under 5. It cripples national productivity, puts a huge strain on the healthcare system, and it prevents kids from learning well in school, which just traps families in a cycle of poverty.
So what's the treatment plan here? Well, India has a whole suite of major initiatives. You've got PMGKY, which provides free food grains to a staggering 80 crore people. That's a massive number. Then there's the Poshan Abhiyan, which specifically targets nutrition for mothers and children. And of course, the landmark National Food Security Act from 2013, which actually made food a legal right. These are huge, wide-ranging efforts trying to tackle the problem from all angles.
All right, so from that chronic ailment of hunger, we're now going to shift our focus to a more acute internal security threat. For decades, a big part of the country was known as the Red Corridor, a region that's been grappling with a violent insurgency.
We're talking about left-wing extremism, or LWE, but you probably know it as Naxalism. Now, it's really crucial to understand, this isn't just a simple law and order problem. It's an ideology. It's rooted in Maoist principles, and its ultimate goal is to overthrow India's democratic government using violence. And its roots go all the way back to a 1967 uprising in a West Bengal village called Naxalbari.
But here's the thing, that map is changing, a lot. The geographical influence of LWE is shrinking, and shrinking significantly. The number of districts affected has dropped from 18 all the way down to 11, and the number of most affected districts, that's now down to just 3. The government has even set a target to completely eliminate it by March 2026.
Now, this progress is obviously huge, but it has come after a very long and very bloody conflict. This number right here, this represents the human cost. Between 2004 and March of 2025, nearly 9,000 lives were lost because of LWE-related violence. That's a really sobering reminder of what's at stake here.
So how was this progress achieved? Well, it really comes down to a dual-pronged strategy. On one side, you have the hard security operations, things like the Samadan framework, to unify strategy and financial choking to cut off their funding. But, and this is just as important, you have the winning hearts and minds approach. Bring in development. We're talking over 1,000 new bank branches, new schools, new roads, and mobile towers, all aimed at getting rid of the root causes that fuel the insurgency in the first place.
This brings us to the third part of our health check, a really powerful, and let's be honest, deeply controversial treatment in the nation's security toolkit. We're talking about a law known as AFSPA, a tool that's used in areas of extreme conflict.
AFSPA stands for the Armed Forces Special Powers Act and actually dates all the way back to 1958. Essentially, it's a law that gives the military extraordinary powers and legal immunity to operate in areas that the government has declared as disturbed. Right now, it's in effect in parts of Nagaland, Manipur, Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, and Jammu and Kashmir.
So what exactly are these special powers? Well, under Section 4 of the Act, armed forces personnel can use lethal force, they can arrest people and search homes without a warrant, and they can even destroy structures that they suspect are being used by insurgents. I mean, these are immense powers, which is exactly why this law is so heavily debated.
But, and this is a big but, that power is not completely unchecked. In a huge ruling back in 2016, India's Supreme Court made it very clear that the legal immunity given by the Act is not absolute. The court basically said that accountability for using excessive force is mandatory, and that established a really critical judicial safeguard.
And this brings us right to the core of the debate. Supporters will tell you that AFSPA is absolutely essential for national security, that it empowers the armed forces to handle tough insurgencies where normal government has broken down. But opponents argue that it violates fundamental human rights, that it creates a culture of impunity, and that it leads to the long-term militarization of civilian life. It's that classic, difficult tension between security and liberty.
So after looking at these three very different challenges, hunger, insurgency, and this controversial law, what's the prescription? What's the common path forward that could improve the nation's overall health?
You know what's really incredible is that when you look at the solutions, you see this huge overlap. It suggests that the root causes of something like hunger, things like poor governance and people feeling disempowered, are the exact same issues that can fuel an insurgency. So whether you're fighting hunger or extremism, the recommendations all point in the same direction: good governance, building up resilient local systems, and empowering communities. It's all about finding a balance where security and human rights aren't seen as opposite forces, but as two goals that are totally interconnected.
And that brings us to our final question. This whole health check really boils down to this one delicate, ongoing balancing act. It's the central challenge, isn't it? Finding that perfect equilibrium between security, development, and rights. And honestly, the answer to that question is what's ultimately going to define the health and well-being of the entire nation for years to come.